Peace. What's good, family? Out here in my old stomping grounds, what they corporately call Far Rockaway, New York territory. Huh. Me, however, I like to call this territory Norkep. But either or, I just me operating according to my own constitution. So y'all say I'm in New York, I say I'm in Norkep. So, you know what I'm saying? You tell me according to whose jurisdiction you operating under. Cops passing by. You know what I'm saying? You know they gotta respect the G. They know God when they see it. But man, it's just been crazy. This past couple days, Mercury's been beating my ass the hell up. Just want you to know that. Mercury has been beating my ass the hell up. So that being said, I've been getting a lot of emails and messages from Moors having questions on clarity about certain things. So I'm gonna do this for the family. I'm gonna make it clear. One more again. All right, and mind you, man, everything that I tell you is based off things that I have studied, put into action, okay, and then learn from the experience, okay, from application. So I'm not just going off I heard a brother say something and then so now I'm like, shit, am I fucked up in the game because this brother said this? Like, I don't just go off of what people say. I verify what they're saying. All right, I verify what the hell I'm saying. You understand? I don't just listen to myself. I verify what I'm saying to myself. And it's me talking, so I would know if I'm telling a lie or not. But even me, I gotta verify because I don't want to give people misinformation. So I want to be very rooted in my own standing, but I also don't want to give misinformation. So a lot of times when it comes to how these things operate, people need to understand what's in place. A lot of Moors will tell other Moors, hey, you don't want to get a state ID. You don't want to get a passport. You don't want to correct the record in any of these public matters. You just want to be done with the corporation and not F with them. And I can respect that. I was actually in that mindset when I first nationalized myself. I didn't want nothing to do with the corporation. But you know what started to happen? I started to realize that the issues I was having kept coming back to the straw name. It kept coming back to the straw name because even though I corrected my record in my private capacity, it wasn't corrected in the public. Okay? My privacy was cool. There ain't nothing for me to file, no clerks for me to go see in my privacy. My privacy exists in my mind. So in my mind, I declared my nationality. I know who I am. There's nothing need for that. In the public is where you need to make the change because we're outside dealing with the public every day. Every day we interface with the public. So publicly, we have to match. Publicly, the records need to match what we're feeling and saying privately. So if I am Ku'umare Su'el, let me rephrase that. If I am Ku'un Ani Alamare Su'el privately, then I am Ku'un Ani Alamare Su'el publicly. Okay? Bank cards, social security, state ID. If you haven't gotten your passport already, state ID, because once you get your passport, you can rescind that signature back. You don't need the state ID. It's only a temporary until you get your passport. Then you rescind that signature and give that state ID back to the state. You give it back to the corporate state because you don't need that. You just need your passport because a passport is recognized in all of the states as well as in other countries for identification uses. That's what they call it, your federal ID, your federal passport ID. Remember, the term federal deals with treaty. So anytime you hear federal, you hear treaty. Okay, so when you hear Moors, it's like, why are Moors so afraid to go back in and correct the record? That's what I'm beginning to see. Moors are afraid to go back in the system and correct the record and have what's happening internally be reflected externally. Moors don't want to do that. They just want to rock out with internal and not deal or correct the record in the public. And most of the issues they're having is in the public. Right? Most Moors who have issues traveling and shit like that, they're dealing. That's because somewhere down the line they didn't close all holes, they didn't close all windows, they didn't caulk all holes, You know what I'm saying? They didn't shut all the doors, put the locks on. So now there's leeway for some bullshit to come in every now and then when you go into issues. So now you and your proper person, but for some reason you're dealing with issues and you're still in your straw name. There's a reason that's happening. You haven't cleared up everything yet publicly. There's still some things to be done. But you got Morris who say, no, you don't want to do none of that. You don't want to interfere. It's a corporation. They're fake. They're fraud. Well, if they're fake, they're fraud, then how can they still have an impact on people's lives even though they're still fake and fraud? I think we need to stop being delusional. Okay? Yes, we understand these niggas is de facto, but don't you understand what the word de facto means? It means not real in fact, but real in actual action. So, what's good, bro? You know what I'm saying? So a de facto is real as far as it being put into application. But as far as factually, you know de facto isn't real. You know this is not a democracy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Not the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And to the republic for which it stands. And to the republic for which it stands. And to the republic for which it stands. Not democracy. And to the republic for which it stands. One nation. Under God. One nation under God. You know what I'm saying? So, if we just come to the truth, things will be made simple. So there's a reason why we go through the process of correcting the record privately as well as publicly. Okay? And that is simply put because on the public side, you're still considered chattel property, even though you've made the correction privately. You haven't shouted it out. You haven't proclaimed it publicly. You haven't done certain things in a public venue to make sure you don't get into any issues where they're confusing you or mistreating you as if you're the straw. And that's been the problem the whole time. But nobody wants to authenticate their birth certificate. Nobody wants to reclaim ownership, claim dominion, become the registered owner. That way they can't be confused as to whether you're surety or not. See, you can't confuse whether I'm surety or whether I'm surety. You can't do that to me no more because I'm the owner. In their records, in my records, I'm classified as the registered owner. So there's nobody calling me surety and shit. I'm not a surety for shit. I'm the owner of it all. I get to control and be the beneficiary of that. That's it. That's what I get to do. And then operating through my trust, I get to put all things that I own in the name of my trust. All things, from cars to houses to land to electronics to arms, whatever you could fucking possibly think of. Anything that I hold of value, I put it in my trust. It's in the name of my trust. It's not in my name. It's not in Ku'unani Alamare Su'el. It's in the name of my trust. Okay? Now, my individual trusts, I have a few, but the main one I like to use is Noble Kuel Estate. I'm sorry, not Noble Kuel. That is my estate. Okay? Which is secured underneath my foreign EIN. So that's how I've been functioning and operating underneath my treaty. So I don't need to use no USC codes. I don't need to, I'm just living life. I'm just living life, learning the system more and more and more. So that way I can better learn how to work it and not let the system work me. And that's the problem. We've been letting the system work us, but we're not working the system because we don't know shit about the system. And the system was designed by our ancestors. The only thing they didn't take was the principles of a matriarchy system. That's why everything is patriarchy. Everything is man. But this system is our ancestors. So to say that this is white man shit and we don't need to study law, you spitting in your ancestors' face because we taught them everything they knew. Everything they know about civilization and law and history and economics, they learned from us because we was already doing that. We've been doing that. So I think it's time now to be very clear in terms of processes. Depending on your state, first thing I say is if you want to declare your nationality, do research on the state you domicile in, okay? Because every state is different. Every state has their own personality. Therefore, if every state has their own personality, that means they got their own processes. You got to understand we're dealing with Babylon. This is the Towers of Babel, right? Where every state speaks the same languages as far as principle goes, but as far as terminology and legalese, they saying different shit. Okay, that's Babel. They're speaking Babel to each other. They understand the main principle, but they can't agree on the terms to get to that principle. So this is why these different states are the Tower of Babylon. That's what we're dealing with, y'all. They're not on They agree to the principle, but they don't agree as far as how to project the principle. So some states have different processes. One state you may have to go through a name correction. Other state you may not have to. But do the research on the state you're in first to know what you're dealing with. Because the same process that I did over here in Owiwam will not be the same processes for other districts in other places. Because every state has its own system. So you got to follow the system of the state. Right? Because we're coming up out of the state. This is what makes it so powerful. We're coming up out of the state through the state. So the state can't argue with its own shit. You know what I'm saying? And it's as simple as that. And when you understand that, there's no confusion in your mind. Like, oh, well, does doing this put me back under their jurisdiction? How? When you got evidence on court records and everything you're utilizing can be tracked back to them court records. So if anyone says anything about, oh, you're a U.S. citizen, I have shit on the record that says otherwise. You understand what I'm saying? So it's about correcting everything, y'all. You want to correct, update information. You want to follow it on the record. Do the name change correction process. Whatever the state requires to do it. Get it done. Then you can go and update. Go get a state ID. If you are an Uber driver, get a license. Have it reflecting your free national name. It's cool. Make sure you have your religious headdress on or your fez. Don't go in there looking like a Negro. Go in there looking like your ancestors. Okay? From there, I'll go and update your information at the Social Security office. The SS5 form is what you need. What you're going to do is you're going to fill out the SS5 form. You're going to put your free national name on there. You're going to put the name that was used for you at birth. I'm not afraid to use my name, y'all. It's my goddamn name. It's mine. Why am I afraid of some shit that's mine? Why are you afraid of some shit that's yours? Okay? So, how can your shit put you back in some jurisdiction you don't want to be in if it's yours? Right? So, with that being said, I encourage Moors. Update the Social Security information, SS5 form. Free national name, name at birth. Why? Because they need to know the name of your estate. Because it's still going to be connected to your estate, which is that bond on that birth certificate. If you look up the IRS manual, section 21.7.13.3.2.2, it's called taxpayer identification. It will show you in section 2, clause 2, that an infant is a decedent or the grantor, owner, receiver of a guardianship, custodianship that has yet to receive a social security